when boxing comes back, it's going to be cards on top of cards on top of cards because these fighters got to make a living, these promoters, these managers, and it's just going to be such a thirst for combat sports. We got to be prepared. So here in about 15 to 17 minutes or so, me and my colleague Big J from over in Australia are going to give you, I guess you can say it's brief. We're going to try to touch all points in regards to Australian boxing, and basically I want you to brace yourselves because we're going to be rolling through with and hitting you with a bunch of information. So I'm TstreeT Controversy with FightView 360, joined by Big J Oldmate over in Australia himself. What's going on, man? You there?
Yeah, g'day, mate. First of all, it's old mate Big J.
Old mate Big J. All right. Big J Old Mate. All right, old mate Big J. All right.
Yeah, get it right, mate. Bloody hell.
All right.
Jesus.
So right now, first, I want you to we want to make sure that people understand the situation over there right now in Australia. For example, here in the States, we're on complete 100% lockdown. We're not supposed to go anywhere. You know, all sporting events, outside events are, or public events are all canceled outside of some states allowing church services to happen. But nonetheless, complete lockdown. So basically, briefly, can you give us some information on what's going on over there right now in Australia in regards to major sports and how your country right now is reacting to COVID-19?
Okay, well, we're actually doing quite well at the moment compared to your country, of course. Now, Scott Morrison is our Prime Minister. Now, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, he gave an executive order.
By the way, hold on. Right now, it is April the 2nd, 2020, 10:27 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's about a little before, I'm going to guess, or close to 2 a.m. over there where Old Mate is right now. So go ahead. You were saying...
it's 1:30 in the morning.
Okay, so go ahead. What were you saying?
Yeah, order about 3-4 weeks ago. Pretty much every single major sporting postponed and or cancelled. So the NRL, the AFL, pretty much everything. Each state's got their own rules, but as a whole, pretty much every state and territory in the country is on stage 4 restrictions. No going outside unless you're going to the shops, you're going to a doctor, you're going for work or necessary education. Can't go outside unless you're in groups of 2 or less. So pretty much we are at lockdown without being at complete lockdown. We are allowed to go outside, but only in a restricted capacity. And the Prime Minister has been pretty keen about people not going outside unless absolutely necessary. All sporting major events, from everything from boxing to badminton, nothing's happening.
Okay, so from your understanding or what information you've gathered, how long do you think, just to keep things simple, before you can see your first, whether big or even small, boxing event in Australia?
Well, from the Prime Minister that just had a press conference on Channel 7 News about 6 or 7 hours ago, about 6 months is when they're looking to hope. 3 to 6 months is about when they'll start looking at things like that. So
wow, that's basically, at the earliest, maybe August, September, it won't be a boxing match over there?
It depends on how things go. I mean, 6 months is a projection, but they are prepared to have that. That's what they were looking at. But unless things massively... The one thing that he said and that no one wants is that they don't want to let things back to normal too quick in case we get a resurge in the virus. So, yeah... I mean, from the interview that I watched about 20 minutes ago, he's saying about 6 months before things start to go back to normal. Except for schools, they want the kids to go back to school because my wife's going crazy. But that's about 6 months is what we're looking at. But in regards to any boxing events, nothing. No one has a clue.
All right, well, it's unfortunate because a lot of boxers, especially, the up-and-coming boxers and a lot of the female boxers just all over the world are really, really scrapping for pennies out here, even when they are fighting. So to change the tone of the our chat, Let's move on to some female boxing. And right now, it was actually you that informed me, and I like to believe that, I cover more boxing than women's boxing than anyone on YouTube, but there's still fighters out there that I'm still getting familiar with, like Suzy Q Ramadan, 28-3 with 12 KO. She is the current, what weight is that? 115-pound.
She is the current Women's International Boxing Association 115-pound superfly, which I like to call Jimmy Snooker division, world champion. She won that back in about 2 months ago, February 15th.
And what about what about the WBC title at bantamweight? She lost that title to a Marina Juarez.
She lost twice. Susie is a 5-time 3-division world champion. She's won WBF at super bantamweight, the WBF, the IBF, the WBC at bantamweight, and just recently the WBA super flyweight. Susie is without doubt the most successful female boxer Australia's ever had, and pound for pound at the moment, in my opinion, the best boxer Australia's got, and she should be the face of Australian boxing because her achievements outweigh anyone currently by a long shot.
So why is it that she hasn't been getting a lot of exposure? Now I know we got to move on to the one day in the future, once boxing picks back up, because she's been so kind to our channel, and to our brand Fight View 360, giving my colleague here made many interviews. We want to make sure that we give her the just due and cover her in more detail in the future. But briefly, right now, why is it that you think, especially in this current resurgence of female boxers and boxing, that she's not getting, I guess, mainstream worldwide exposure?
I don't know the answer to that question. 2 reasons. I think I spoke to her about this in the interview. The number one reason that the girls traditionally are in the light divisions and they don't get the recognition because everyone's really only interested in the heavyweight champion of the world. That's the most popular division, always has been, always will be, right? The best boxers in the world, best boxers in history, you think of heavyweights: Joe Louis, Muhammad Ali, Tyson. Tyson Fury now, all heavyweights. You don't think of the small 115-pound guys that a stiff breeze would blow them over. I think that's why. And there's a lot of people out there that still don't like the idea that women compete in combat sports.
Yeah.
And they need to get past that. I think that's an old school mentality. One of the best fights that ever happened was when Holly Holmes knocked out Ronda Rousey, and that happened in Australia. So I don't really have a definitive answer for that, but it's just really unfortunate that someone like Susie, who's at 41 and is 41 next week, everything that she's achieved, and she gets not a hundredth of the recognition she deserves. So
yeah,
it's really sad, but we're going to make our best efforts to make sure. Because I'll be honest, I didn't know who she was until 2.5 months ago, until I stumbled on a record on Box Rec, just looking up the schedules one day.
Yeah, I knew who she was from a friend on Facebook, but didn't really understand, until me and you linked up and started talking about it. But moving on to Lauren Eagle, she is 23-4-1 with 13 KOs. She's currently fighting at 130 pounds. Right now, it says she has a vacant IBA title. I haven't heard of that title in God knows how long. Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Yeah, well, basically, you've summed her up. Basically, she is the current Australian super featherweight and the WBA super featherweight title. Now, she was due to fight on the 22nd of this month. I think that's the correct date. In Sydney to defend her WBA title, but obviously that's been pushed back. So she turned to boxing after being a model, I think about 10 years ago. And so she's actually doing, she's actually got herself back into boxing and doing really, really well.
She hasn't lost a fight since 2014. By the way, to let some of the viewers know, some of the fighters that are in her division currently right now are names like Delphine Persoon. Remember, she fought Katie Taylor on Joshua versus Ruiz 1. You got Terry Harper. I covered her last fight. She's a Matchroom Promotions fighter. She had beat and retired Ava Wallstrom. You got Maiva Hamadouchi. I always mess her name up. She is the IBF 130-pound champion, and you got Michaela Mayer, who's a top ring fighter. So the 100, Alicia Bumgarner, basically the 130-pound division is very deep. And right now, the fighter we're talking about, Lauren Eagle, she turned from model to boxer, and she hasn't lost since 2014. So
yeah, she's doing pretty well. I'll just quickly back on Susie Q. She's trying to get a unification bout with the IBF champ because she's ranked very high with the IBF at 115.
Okay.
I can't remember the girl's name. I think it's Georgina Gigini. I can't pronounce her name properly, but she's trying to get a unification bout with her possibly in July if things work out well. So that's something to look out for that I'll be keeping very high tabs on. Another girl that we want to talk about who's just had a world title fight that no one even knew about was Deanna Hobbs. We've talked about this. She's a Queensland girl. She's currently under Glenn Rushton.
yeah, she is 8-2 with 5 KOs, 32 years old, fighting currently.
She's done the 2 losses that she had were world title fights. That's the only time she's lost is when she's had a world title fight. So she fought Marie McGee
and Christina Lenartard. Lenartardu, I forgot who she fought recently. I just covered her. Let me see who she fought. So yeah, it was 2 title shots. She fought Katie Taylor. So basically, Deanna Hobbs pretty much was 1 fight from fighting Katie Taylor.
Yeah, because Joel Camilleri told me about the Deanna Hobbs fight. And apparently, it was a real war, even though there was no coverage on it, not even in the States. I mean, that was a massive card. It was 3 world titles.
It was a DeBella card. I got that press release. It was actually DeBella's last card before COVID-19 coronavirus, and it took place in Indiana, correct?
That's right. It did take place.
Yeah, it took place in Indiana.
And for my mind, I know that a publication called the Courier Mail, which is a Queensland newspaper, wrote up about the fight, but no one else covered it. We were the only ones that actually covered it. I wrote 2 articles about it. I'm like, I couldn't believe that. If that was, because, she's a 140-pounder. If that was Costas or Liam Paro, who we'll talk about in a minute, if that was Liam Paro going for the site, it'd be all over the news.
Yeah.
I can't understand why these girls aren't getting any attention because they bloody well deserve it. I mean, here's a legit fighter going for a legit title, and as Susie told me in her interview, because the media pick and choose who they want to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, we don't.
All right, you're a
boxer, bang.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we got to move on to the next subject. All right, so moving on, we're going to be going and talking about. He is currently fighting. Actually, he's hybrid. He's fighting at 168. Well, he's ranked at 168 and 175, but according to my colleague, Zach Dunn, 29-1 with 24 KOs, is currently fighting at 175 and was supposed to fight Dominic Bolzo for the WBA interim title, and I can't stand the WBA. And I believe, wasn't that supposed to be, where was that fight supposed to take place?
In Germany. I'm not quite sure where because when I looked it up on BoxRec, it was all in German. I couldn't understand where it was supposed to be held, but in Germany, and that title fight was for old mates Dominic Bossel's
WBA interim title at 175.
As well as the vacant IBO 175 title, which Zach Dunn won the 168 a few years back. So
what do you know about Zach Dunn? You think he's? I don't remember ever seeing him fight before.
Very little. I think he may have appeared on a couple of mundane undercards. I haven't really looked into him. I have heard of him because he's an Aussie fighter, but I've never actually seen him fight. But I look forward to see. I don't think any of his fights have been televised. He might have had 1, maybe 2 undercards to Mundine or Green, but I don't know much about him. But I was very excited when I saw this fight. I thought, yeah, great, I'll keep tabs on him now. Because Barry Michael, we talked about that one in our interview. He made sure I keep tabs on that one. But I know not much about him, but if he gets up, it's going to be great because he'll be the first 175 world champ since Denny Green way back in 2007.
So basically, here's the title situation at 175. Before we move on to the Moloney brothers, we were gonna have. Okay, right now you have Arturberto BF, who's the WBC and the IBF at 175. The WBO is currently vacant right now. They still trying to sort that situation out. You have Dimitri Bivol, who's right now WBA Super World Champion. Jean Pascal, WBA World Champion, who was going to fight Marcus Brown. And the way that works is the winner of Zach Dunn versus Dominic Bozo would be the mandatory of Pascal versus Marcus Brown. So, Pascal and Marcus Brown are both PBC Al Heyman fighters. So basically, for Australian fans, Zach Dunn, if he was to beat Dominic Bozo, he would have a huge, big payday and TV exposure in America on the way.
I hope he gets a shot at Bivol because he knocked out Trent.
He could, but the way it works is, he could get that shot, but Bivol would have to pick him. Whereas Pascal Marcus Brown winner would have to fight Bozo versus Dunn winner. That's how the WBA is weird. That's how that weird shit works.
Yeah, I just like an Aussie to get revenge because pretty much after that loss, Trent Broadhurst's career's just gone down, unfortunately. So
anyway, you know what? We had a couple of chats on social media. He's a real cool dude. Like down to earth.
Burvo?
No, Trent Broadhurst.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to meet him yet, but all accounts are that he's a nice bloke.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. Like very on social media, very out there and open. So let's move on to the Moloney brothers. Right now, we're going to talk about. Now, these are some significant fights. Now, first, I must point out that both Andrew and his brother Jason Moloney are top-ranked fighters, and they've been fighting on ESPN Plus for several fights now. So their fights have been widely available, and both of these brothers are on their way to world title shots. Now, you may remember Jason Moloney from losing to Manny Rodriguez in a very tough fight in the World Boxing Super Series back in 2018. So, Jason Moloney was supposed to fight top-ranked Joshua Greer. You've been also seeing him, too, on ESPN Plus and ESPN undercards. They were supposed to fight April the 25th on the undercard of Naoya Inoue versus Joel Cassiamore. So that was going to be a cracking card. And basically the winner of Moloney versus Joshua Greer were going to fight Inoue for multiple belts. So let me tell you who the champions are before we get Big J's thoughts on the fight. So right now you have Northern Obali, who's the WBC champion, who was supposed to fight Nonito Donaire. That fight is still supposed to go through. You have Inoue, who is the WBA and IBF and Ring Magazine champion, who was supposed to fight WBO champion John Real Cassiamore for 3 belts. The winner of Joshua Greer and Jason Moloney would then fight for those 3 belts in the Ring Magazine. So very, very huge. In fact, at this point in time, it's the biggest fight of Moloney and Joshua Greer's careers. One of them is going to go directly to the back of the line, especially since, there's technically only 3, after Inoue versus Mayor, there's only going to be 2 champions you can fight. And then you have Guillermo Rigondeaux, who has that WBA world champion. Now, I know I'm hitting you with a whole bunch of, rankings and everything, but this is vital information for the hardcore boxing fans. I was at Rigondeaux's last fight, by the way, with Gary Russell. But moving on, let's talk about it. What do you know about Jason Moloney as a fighter, as a person? Have you had any interactions with him yet? If not, we'll get that to you in the future. But let's talk about him and where you think he's going.
Okay, well, I haven't spoken to Jason, but I have spoken to his brother Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
The interview hopefully will be up on 52360 soon. Basically, now Andrew has now been promoted to the WBA regular super flyweight world champion after the Khalid Yafi versus Roman Gonzalez fight.
Correct.
They promoted Jason to the full title. Now, Andrew was supposed to have a fight this month in Oklahoma, he told me, I believe. Obviously, that's been pushed back. And Jason was supposed to have his fight on April 25th this month on Anzac Day in Vegas on that card. So basically, the Moloney brothers are our version of the brothers Charla. So both of them, one's already a world champion. One's won 2 fights from becoming a world champion. And those are they're Melbourne boys, but they now live up and train in Kingscliff, which is just about 50 k's south of the Queensland New South Wales border. I think that's where they are now. But those guys are probably going to be a very successful pair, and will probably be easily the only set of twins in Australian boxing history to become world champions. I'm pretty sure.
Wait, they're twins or brothers?
No, they're twins. They're identical twins.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, Jason is the oldest one by a minute. Because have you ever seen a picture of him?
I'm looking at him. I just thought that sometimes you can be just really you can just look like your brother. But yeah, I see it now.
They're identical twins. Jason's the older one by a minute. It's all on the interview that will be on the website.
Yeah, but I'm gonna get that up later on today, guys. I'm gonna put the link. Well, actually, when you get to see this video, the link is gonna be down below in the description box. So, do you feel that they can carry Australian boxing? One of them, do they have the personality? Do you think that when, for example, it's kind of unfortunate for Andrew Moloney that he was given a title.
Yes, yeah, because
he was supposed to fight. By the way, Israel Gonzalez, April the 17th in the Osage Casino in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's who we were supposed to fight.
Yeah, that's the fight. That's the fight that he told me about. Yeah. And that fight has to be pushed back now. Same with Jason's fight. That has to be pushed back until further notice.
But Jason would definitely have the harder road, and he's also been in the World Boxing Super Series. So if he was to get through Joshua Greer, I'm not going to give my prediction on that fight yet, but if he was to get through Joshua Greer, then he would have to go on to likely fight the monster Inoue, because a lot of people feel that Inoue would beat who he's fighting, Casimero. Either way, that's a tough road he's taking.
Oh yeah, but don't worry, he'll be ready for it. Don't worry about that. Now back on to Andrew. Andrew has been. There's been a lot of talk about the IBF Super Flyweight Champion. How do you pronounce his name properly? I need to get this right.
Jerwin Incajas.
Jerwin
Filipino
Incajas.
sensation.
He's a Filipino bloke, right?
Yeah, IBF champion. Yeah, one of Manny Pacquiao's proteges.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because there's been a lot of talk and a lot of press releases in Australia and Philippine press release that he's been interested in fighting Andrew for a long time.
Yeah, and also, they're both top ranked fighters.
Well, there you go. That shouldn't be too hard to put together. I mean, there's been a lot of talk. Last I checked, Andrew was ranked number 6. He's not on the rankings anymore. That's
because he's a champion. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But there's been a lot of talk for a long time that Jaron wants to fight Andrew, and that would be a bloody great fight. I mean, they could come out here. They could come out here and pack out, I
think they could because they'll build it up, especially since Incajas is very close to Pacquiao. Now, right now, the way the 115-pound division is, you have Juan Francisco Estrada, WBC, Chocolatito Gonzalez, WBA Super World, Andrew Moloney, WBA World after being elevated from WBA interim. Jerwin Incajas is the IBF, and you got Kazuda Miyoka, who is the WBO. Now, one thing to point out is there's no politics that forbid any of these guys from fighting, so which means that in a perfect world, which is supposed to happen, we're supposed to see Francisco Estrada versus Chocolatito Gonzalez for both of those belts. And then, we could see Andrew Moloney if he beats Israel Gonzalez. By the way, Israel Gonzalez is ranked number 1 by the IBF, who is basically Moloney's next fight was going to be actually in Cajas' mandatory, Israel Gonzalez.
Yeah, he's ranked number 3 with the WBA. I'm just looking.
But also he's number 1 with the IBF. Israel
Yeah, I
Gonzalez.
just seen that. Yeah, I'm looking at that now. Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so as I was saying, when we first started talking about the Moloney twins, is they're in some very, very significant fights. But moving on, since we're very, very short on time, we got to move on. Give Joris Kambosos Jr. 18-0 with 10 KOs. Right now, he is residing in Las Vegas, correct?
Yeah, but he's over there. I think he's working with Manny. I think he spars with Manny Pacquiao, if I've got that right.
Yeah, he's supposed to fight. It's been rescheduled for July the 11th. He's supposed to fight
Yep.
Lee Selby in Cardiff in the UK. So we don't know, as it stands right now, fights for July are still set for the UK. But as time goes on, we're going to give him a little more exposure and actually do a preview video because that's a very significant fight. Now, since we're very, very short on time, we do have to talk about, what is supposed to be the biggest fight of Australian boxing this year. And it's supposed to be Jeff Horn versus Tim Tszyu. Now, what's going on with that?
Postponed until further notice, obviously. What they're trying to do at the moment is that they're trying to get a US deal for that fight.
A US TV deal, whether it's the Zone, ESPN Plus, or Showtime.
Yeah, well, basically whoever they can get their hands on, I suppose. I mean, I've been looking, there's been no publications or anything in the news about it. Everything's gone a little bit quiet, of course. But at the moment, it's postponed until further notice, and hopefully it stays in Townsville because I'd be gutted if it wasn't in Townsville. But there's not much going on with those. It's like everything else. Everyone's just waiting for this coronavirus thing to get up. But basically, Jeff's still in training, even though he did a very poor attempt at an April Fool's joke yesterday, saying he was going to retire and go to the UFC. But we all got a good laugh.
We don't nobody believe that.
It gave us a good laugh. But basically, Jeff's in solitary. He's in training. Not quite sure what Tim's up to. But I dare say, basically, there was a press release article the other day saying give them 8 weeks and they'll be enough time to prepare for the fight. But hopefully, around 6 months. I mean, that's not until September, October. But hopefully, around maybe August, that fight can happen. Who knows? But anyway, it depends when this coronavirus thing gets lifted, but at the moment there's been no confirmed postponement dates or anything like that. So we're just going to have to wait. We're going to have to lay and wait, unfortunately. But it's going to be still going to be a massive fight, and it's now they get to hit the reset button, and hopefully everything will go a lot smoother than it did the first time. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now, so the way you're saying is it looks like if this fight were to happen, the earliest would happen would maybe be August or September if it were to happen? What the situation is right now. I mean, I know we can't predict.
We can't predict, but
so it's done for April. It's not happening in May, and you're not confident it's going to happen in June or July?
Oh, yeah, I think it would take a minor miracle for it to happen in June or July, even though that's what we'd like to happen, because that's actually when I read it on the other day that the NRL, which is the major football code, Queensland, New South Wales, trying to find some loophole so they can play, but that ain't going to happen. And that's around the time the State of Origin happens, which is the theme of the fight, Queensland versus New South Wales, as we've spoken about. But I can't give a definitive answer. I mean, no one knows what's going on, and as far as the Prime Minister is concerned, he's looking at 6 months. So that's not until September, October. So that fight might not happen until December. Who knows?
Okay.
Hopefully, well, look at it this way. Boxing won't go back, because the only thing that's going on at the moment is horse racing. Boxing won't go back until the major football codes go back. They'll go back first, and then the boxing will be allowed to happen. I'm not quite sure, but somehow horse racing's still allowed to happen. I don't know why, but I think if the football codes can go back first, then everything else will go back to normal. But as I said, it's the Prime Minister's call, so they're pretty strict about keeping things at low levels at the moment, and it's probably the same in your country. Nothing's happening until they get the tick of approval from the doctors or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, we are just reaching the end of our video. So, any quick shots? Anybody we missed? I know we didn't get a chance to talk about Liam Parr, the news of Mike Hunt. Quick, really, 2 minutes. Anything we missed? We want to talk about?
Louisa Horton is the current WBC interim atomweight champion. She's another one to look out for.
Okay.
Paul Gallen versus Mark Hunt may happen. I don't know. We'll keep tabs on that. That's basically a UFC bloke versus an NRL bloke. Should be a very interesting fight if it happens. That's really about it at the moment. Everything, as we know, the whole world's on hold. Mm-hmm. Boxing as a whole's on hold. We're just going to have to wait until this coronavirus, everyone out there, follow the rules of your particular countries and government, keep safe, don't do anything bloody stupid, and we'll all get through this thing within a matter of months, hopefully, and by July, everything can go back to normal.
All right, guys. Once again, as time goes on, we're actually going to be doing more individual videos and giving you more in-depth breakdowns of fights. As you can see, we can talk all day about a lot of these fights. So we want to make sure going forward that when it comes to Australian boxing, right now, we want to make sure that when you come to us, that you're going to get full breakdowns, not only pre-fight, but we're working on something where we can get made on the phone after we watch these fights, so not only will I be doing my video as you would normally see, but then we will give you an extra video where it would be actually, whether it's fighters from Australia or, Old Mate himself, talking about the fights. It's TstreeT Controversy with FightView360.com. Please subscribe.